37 and starting over, how I fought my ex in court and won my life. Back before we begin, if you're going through a divorce, fighting for your kids, or starting over after losing everything, this story is for you. What I'm about to share isn't a fairy tale. It's messy, it's painful, and it's real. But it's also about hope, about finding strength you didn't know you had. If this resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support means the world, and it helps me share more stories like this. Now let's begin. The worst calls always come at 3 a.m. I was sitting in the waiting room of Dell Seton Medical Center in Austin, staring at a hospital bill I couldn't pay when my phone vibrated. The number on the screen made my stomach drop. Brad, my ex-husband, the man who hadn't called me in 8 months, the man who'd walked out on our family for a 28-year-old marketing associate with perfect teeth and 0 stretch marks. I let it ring twice before answering. My hands were shaking. "Hello? Sarah." His voice was smooth controlled. The same voice that used to tell me he loved me. The same voice that later told me he needed something new. "I need to see you. About the kids." Through the window of the ER, I could see Emma, my 8-year-old, lying on a hospital bed oxygen mask over her small face. Her 3rd asthma attack in 2 months. The doctor had assured me she'd be fine, but that didn't stop my chest from tightening every time I looked at her. "It's 3 in the morning, Brad." "I know what time it is." A pause. "I heard Emma's in the hospital again." How did he know we'd been here less than 2 hours? "She's fine." "That's the 3rd time, Sarah. 3 times in 2 months. My jaw clenched. "Your point?" "My point is we need to talk about custody arrangements. This isn't working." The fluorescent lights above me flickered. A nurse walked past, shoes squeaking against linoleum. Somewhere down the hall, a machine beeped steadily. "We have a custody arrangement," I said quietly. "The court already decided." "The court decided 8 months ago. Things have changed." "What things?" "Just meet me tomorrow. We'll talk then." He hung up before I could respond. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, listening to dead air. My heart was hammering. Emma stirred on the hospital bed, and I forced myself to breathe. Things have changed. What did that mean? The bill in my hand was $4,700. I had $1,200 in my checking account. No insurance. Brad had canceled our family plan 3 months after the divorce, claiming he couldn't afford to cover everyone. Never mind that he'd just bought a Porsche 911. I folded the paper and shoved it into my purse. I'd figure it out. I always did. A woman in scrubs approached me. She was older, maybe 50, with kind eyes and dark skin. Her badge read Dr. Kavita Patel, pulmonology. "Mrs. Mitchell." "It's Ms., actually, but yes." She sat down beside me, clipboard in hand. "Emma's stable. We're keeping her overnight for observation, but she should be able to go home tomorrow afternoon." Relief flooded through me. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Dr. Patel studied me for a moment. "This is the 3rd time Emma's been admitted in 2 months. I know. Has anything changed at home? New stressors, environmental triggers?" I thought about our apartment in East Austin, the cramped 2-bedroom where Jake and Emma shared a room while I slept on a pull-out couch in the living room. I thought about the mold I'd scrubbed off the bathroom ceiling last week. I thought about the bills stacked on the kitchen counter. "We moved," I said, 6 months ago, from Westlake Hills to somewhere smaller. That could be a factor. She made a note. But I'm also wondering about emotional stressors. Asthma in children is often linked to anxiety. She's 8. 8-year-olds can have anxiety too. Dr. Patel's voice was gentle. Especially children going through major life changes. Divorce, moving, financial stress. They pick up on more than we think. I looked away. "I'm doing my best." "I'm sure you are." She paused. "Ms. Mitchell, can I ask you something? Your name sounds familiar. Did you ever go by Sarah Hartley?" My breath caught. No one had called me that in 11 years. Yes, that was my maiden name." Dr. Patel's face brightened. "I thought so. You were a student at UT Austin, weren't you? Computer science class of 2006? The room suddenly felt smaller. "You remember me?" "Of course, I was a teaching assistant for Professor Harrison. You were brilliant, Sarah. One of the most talented students we'd ever had. Your research paper on machine learning was published in a peer-reviewed journal when you were only 21. Professor Harrison used to say you could work at MIT Stanford anywhere you wanted." My throat tightened. That was a long time ago. You were going to change the world. She looked at me curiously. What happened? Why didn't you finish the program? Because I met a man who told me I didn't need to, because I was 21 and in love and stupid, because I thought being Mrs. Brad Mitchell would be enough. Life happened, I said quietly. Doctor. Patel nodded slowly like she understood all the things I wasn't saying. Well, for what it's worth, I always wondered what happened to you. You had so much potential. Had. Past tense. She stood up. Get some rest, Ms. Mitchell. You can see Emma in about an hour. After she left, I sat alone in the waiting room, surrounded by strangers with their own emergencies. A man with a bleeding hand. A woman holding a crying baby. An elderly couple sitting in silence. I pulled out my phone and opened an old folder of photos. There I was at 21, standing in front of the computer science building at UT Austin, holding my acceptance letter to the graduate program. Full scholarship. Research assistant position. A future so bright I'd needed sunglasses to look at it. And there I was 6 months later wearing a white dress, marrying Brad Mitchell in a courthouse ceremony because he'd said, "Why wait, I love you. Let's start our life together now." I dropped out 2 weeks later. Brad had been promoted to regional manager at Oracle. He made enough for both of us, he'd said. I could focus on starting a family. I could relax. I didn't need to work myself to death like those other women. I'll take care of everything, he'd promised. You just take care of us. And I had. For 10 years, I'd taken care of us. I'd decorated the 5-bedroom house in Westlake Hills. I'd hosted dinner parties for Brad's colleagues. I'd made sure Jake's homework was perfect and Emma's ballet recitals were attended. I'd kept my body in shape, my hair highlighted, my smile ready. I'd been the perfect wife, and none of it had mattered. Dang. I must have dozed off because I woke to someone shaking my shoulder. A nurse. Ms. Mitchell, you can see your daughter now. Emma looked so small in that hospital bed, dwarfed by white sheets and medical equipment. Her blonde hair was tangled, her face pale. But she was awake and she smiled when she saw me. Hi, Mama. Hi, baby. I sat on the edge of the bed and brushed hair from her forehead. How are you feeling? Better. My chest doesn't hurt anymore. Good. That's good. Am I in trouble? What no, sweetheart. Why would you be in trouble? She looked down at her hands. Because I got sick again. And it costs money. My heart cracked. Emma, no. You're never in trouble for being sick. Never. But I heard you on the phone with the hospital lady last week. You said you couldn't pay. God, she'd heard that. Emma, listen to me. I took her small hands in mine. Money is my problem to worry about, not yours. You're 8 years old. Your only job is to be a kid, okay? Okay. But she didn't sound convinced. Where's Jake? She asked. At home. It's the middle of the night. He's sleeping. Except Jake probably wasn't sleeping. My 12-year-old son barely slept anymore. He was too busy worrying about things 12-year-olds shouldn't have to worry about. Mama Kai, yes, baby. Is Daddy coming to see me? I hesitated. I don't know. He didn't come last time. I know. Or the time before that. I know, Em. She was quiet for a moment. Then, does Daddy not love us anymore? The question punched me in the gut. How do you tell your 8-year-old that her father is capable of love, just not for her? How do you explain that some men are wired to love themselves first, their image second, and their children a distant third? Daddy loves you. I lied. He's just busy. With Melissa. Hearing that name from my daughter's mouth made me want to vomit. Melissa's gone. Remember, she moved to New York. Oh, Emma thought about this. Is Daddy sad? Probably, but not for the reasons Emma thought. I don't know, baby, but you don't need to worry about Daddy, okay? You need to worry about getting better. A knock on the door interrupted us. A nurse poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt. Ms. Mitchell, there's someone here to see you. He says he's a family lawyer. My blood ran cold. Tell him I'm not available. He says it's urgent. Something about a custody filing. No, 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 no. Brad hadn't just called to talk. He'd already started legal proceedings. Give me a minute. I turned to Emma. I'll be right back, okay? Okay, Mama. I followed the nurse into the hallway, my legs shaking. A man in an expensive suit stood near the nurse's station. He was in his 50s with silver hair and a briefcase that probably cost more than my rent. Ms. Mitchell, I'm Carter Walsh. I represent Brad Mitchell. I know who you are. Everyone in Austin's legal community knew Carter Walsh. He was the kind of lawyer who won cases because he could afford to bury his opponents in paperwork. I apologize for the timing, but my client wanted you to have this as soon as possible. He handed me a manila envelope. I didn't take it. What is it? A petition for modification of custody. Mr. Mitchell is requesting a 50-50 split. We already have a custody arrangement, which my client believes is no longer in the children's best interest. His voice was smooth, practiced. Given recent developments, Emma's repeated hospitalizations, Jake's declining academic performance, your unstable employment situation, Mr. Mitchell feels the children would benefit from spending equal time with both parents. This is about money. I'm sorry, Brad doesn't want the kids. He wants to stop paying child support. Carter Walsh's expression didn't change. Mr. Mitchell's motivations are between him and his children. However, I would advise you to take this seriously. If you refuse to negotiate, we'll be forced to take this to court. And I should warn you, our case is quite strong. He set the envelope on the counter between us. You have 30 days to respond. I suggest you hire an attorney. Then he walked away, his shoes clicking against the floor, leaving me standing there with a document that could destroy what was left of my life. I didn't open the envelope until I got home at 6 a.m. Our apartment was quiet. I'd left Jake with Maria Rodriguez, our neighbor, a 45-year-old single mom from Mexico who worked 2 shifts at a restaurant and somehow still found time to help everyone else. She'd come over without hesitation when I'd called at 2 a.m. telling me to go, not to worry, she'd stay with Jake. Jake was asleep on the couch, a blanket draped over him. Maria had left a note on the kitchen counter. Call me when you wake up. Made tamales. In the fridge. I sat at our tiny kitchen table and opened the envelope. The petition was 20 pages long. Legal jargon, exhibits, evidence. But the core message was clear. Sarah Mitchell is unfit to care for her children full-time. They'd included photos. Our apartment from the outside, the chipped paint, the rusty railing. A screenshot of Emma's medical records showing 3 ER visits. A copy of Jake's report card with circled grades C, C+B, D. There was even a section about me letting the children associate with strangers, meaning Daniel Chen, Jake's math teacher, who I'd spoken to exactly 3 times at the library. The petition requested 1. 50-50 custody split. 2. Reduction of child support from $1,200 month to $600 month. 3. Primary residence with Brad Mitchell at his stable, safe home in Westlake Hills. I read it twice, then a 3rd time. Then I went into the bathroom, locked the door, and cried as quietly as I could. When I came out, Jake was awake. He sat at the table staring at the legal papers I'd left spread across the surface. Mom, hey buddy. I wiped my face quickly. Sorry, didn't mean to wake you. I wasn't asleep. He looked up at me with eyes too old for a 12-year-old. What's that? Nothing, just paperwork. Is Dad trying to take us away? I froze. What? I heard you on the phone last night, before you left for the hospital. His voice was flat, emotionless. Dad wants us to live with him. There was no point lying. Jake was too smart for that. He wants to change the custody arrangement, I said carefully. But that doesn't mean I don't want to live with him. Jake, I don't want to live with him. He repeated louder this time. I want to stay with you. You don't have to decide anything right now. Yes, I do. He stood up, his hands clenched into fists. The judge is going to ask me right where I want to live. Maybe. Probably. Then I already know. I want to stay with you. Jake, your dad loves you. No, he doesn't. His voice cracked. He forgot my birthday. He missed my championship game. He doesn't call. He doesn't visit. He doesn't care. I wanted to argue, to defend Brad, to tell Jake that his father was just going through a hard time, but I couldn't, because Jake was right. Come here, I said softly. He hesitated, then crossed the small kitchen. I wrapped my arms around him and he let me, even though he was almost as tall as me now. We're going to figure this out, I whispered. I promise. How? I don't know. We just will. That morning after Jake went back to sleep, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and researched family law attorneys in Austin. Every consultation fee was at least $300. Retainer fees started at $15,000. I had $200 in my checking account, minus the hospital bill I couldn't pay, minus rent due in 2 weeks, minus groceries, utilities, gas. I couldn't afford a lawyer, which meant I'd be assigned a public defender, someone overworked and underpaid, going up against Carter Walsh and his unlimited resources. I was going to lose. The thought settled over me like a heavy blanket. I was going to lose my children because I didn't have enough money to keep them. My phone buzzed. A text from Brad. "Did you get the papers?" I stared at the message, rage building in my chest. "Yes. Good. My lawyer will be in touch about scheduling mediation. This doesn't have to be ugly, Sarah. Let's do what's best for the kids." What's best for the kids, or what's best for your bank account? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. I'm not doing this over text. We'll talk through our lawyers. I threw my phone across the room. It hit the wall and clattered to the floor. Jake appeared in the doorway. "Mom." Sorry, I took a breath. "It's fine. Everything's fine." He didn't believe me. I could see it on his face. But he didn't push. He just nodded and went back to his room. I picked up my phone, miraculously not broken, and opened a website I'd been avoiding for months. Travis County Legal Aid Society. Free legal services for low-income families. I filled out the application with shaking hands. 3 days later, I met my court-appointed attorney. Her name was Jennifer Nguyen. She was 29 years old, Vietnamese-American with earnest eyes and a suit from H&M. She'd graduated from law school 2 years ago. We met at a coffee shop near the courthouse because she didn't have an office. "I'm not going to lie to you," she said after I'd explained the situation. "This is going to be difficult. Brad's attorney is one of the best in the state, and the evidence they've gathered is concerning. Concerning how Emma's hospitalizations, Jake's grades, your employment history or lack thereof, the fact that you've only been at your current job for 5 months. I've been applying for jobs for 8 months. No one wants to hire someone with a 10-year gap in their resume. I understand, but a judge might see it as instability. So what are you saying, that I should just give up?" "No," Jennifer leaned forward. "I'm saying we need to build a strong countercase. We need to prove that you're a good mother, that the children are thriving under your care despite the circumstances. How do I prove that? Character witnesses, documentation of your involvement in their lives, evidence that Brad has been absent or negligent. He hasn't been paying attention to them for months. He missed Jake's birthday. He hasn't visited Emma in the hospital once. Can you prove that?" I thought about it. "I have texts, emails. I can get records from the school showing he hasn't attended any parent-teacher conferences." "Good. That's a start." Jennifer made notes on a yellow legal pad. "What about your financial situation? Brad's petition claims you're unable to provide a stable home." "I have a job. I'm paying rent. We're not homeless." "But you're living in a 2-bedroom apartment where you sleep on the couch." "So lots of single parents do that." "I know, but Carter Walsh is going to paint a picture of instability. We need to counter that with evidence of stability. Consistent employment, regular routine, involvement in the children's education and health care." I felt overwhelmed. "What if that's not enough?" "Then we'll find another angle." She looked at me seriously. "Ms. Mitchell, Sarah, I know I'm young. I know I'm not as experienced as Carter Walsh, but I promise you I'm going to fight for you and your kids with everything I have." I wanted to believe her, but looking at her earnest face, her cheap suit, her worn legal pad, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were bringing a knife to a gunfight. That night I went to the Austin Public Library. It was part of my routine now. I'd drop the kids at home, make sure they had dinner, wait until they were asleep, then drive to the library for the late-night learning program, a service that kept the building open until 2 a.m. for people who worked multiple shifts or needed a quiet place to study. I discovered it 3 months ago after sending out my 50th job application and getting my 50th rejection. We regret to inform you that we've decided to move forward with other candidates. Thank you for your interest, but we're looking for someone with more recent experience. Unfortunately, your qualifications don't match our current needs. Translation: 10 years as a housewife doesn't count for anything. So I'd taught myself to code. I'd started with free courses on Free Code Camp, then YouTube tutorials, then Stack Overflow forums at 2 a.m. when I couldn't figure out why my JavaScript function wouldn't run. It had taken me 3 months to build a portfolio, another 2 months to land a single interview, and somehow miraculously I'd gotten a job. Techverse Solutions, a small AI startup in Domain Northside, junior developer position, $68,000 a year. It wasn't much, not compared to what I could have made if I'd finished my degree. But it was enough, or so I'd thought. Now sitting in the library at midnight, staring at code on my laptop screen, I wondered if it would be enough for a judge. Decaf or regular? I looked up. A man stood beside me holding 2 paper cups from the vending machine. Sorry, I said. You look like you need coffee. I'm trying to decide if you need the kind that keeps you awake or the kind that lets you sleep eventually. I recognized him. Daniel Chen, Jake's math teacher. I'd seen him here a few times before, always in the back corner teaching English to a group of immigrants. Regular, I said. I'm not sleeping anytime soon. He handed me a cup and sat down at the table across from me. Coding, trying to. What are you working on? A module for work. It's supposed to filter and analyze customer data, but the algorithm keeps returning null values. Can I see? I hesitated, then turned my laptop toward him. Daniel studied the screen for a moment. You're using the wrong method to access the nested object. Try bracket notation instead of dot notation. I looked at the code. He was right. Thanks. No problem. I teach math, but the logic is the same. He sipped his coffee. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. You're Jake's mom, he said finally. You're Jake's teacher. He's a smart kid, one of the best students I've had. Was, I corrected. His grades have been slipping. I noticed, but it's not because he's not smart. It's because he's distracted. Distracted by what? Daniel gave me a look. You'd know better than me. Divorce, moving, money problems, his dad abandoning him. Yeah, I said quietly. I guess I would. For what it's worth, I've been trying to help. I let him stay after class to finish his homework in a quiet space. I've been giving him extensions on assignments. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. He stood up. Jake's a good kid. He deserves a break. He walked back to his corner of the library where his students were waiting. I watched him go, then turned back to my laptop. But I couldn't focus. My mind was spinning. Brad wants 50-50 custody. Jennifer says our case is weak. Jake's grades are falling. Emma keeps ending up in the hospital. I'm drowning. I closed my laptop and pressed my palms against my eyes. You can do this, I told myself. You've survived worse. Except I wasn't sure that was true. 2 weeks later, I found Emma's diary. I wasn't snooping. I was just cleaning, stripping sheets, vacuuming under beds, trying to make our cramped apartment feel less suffocating. The diary was hidden under Emma's pillow. Small pink with a unicorn on the cover. I knew I shouldn't read it. But something made me open it. The first entry was from 3 months ago. Dear Diary, today, Sophia asked why I was wearing the same shirt as her cousin. I said it was from my cousin too, but it's actually from Goodwill. Mom doesn't know I know, but I saw the receipt. I'm not sad about the shirt. I'm sad because Mom cried when she thought I was asleep. My hands shook as I turned the page. Dear Diary, I had another asthma attack today. Mom took me to the hospital. She tried to smile, but I could tell she was scared. Not scared about me. Scared about the bill. I wish I didn't get sick. I wish I could be healthy so Mom doesn't have to worry about money. Another page. Dear Diary, I want to be a doctor when I grow up. Doctors make lots of money. Then I can take care of Mom. Then she won't have to cry anymore. I love Mom so much, but I don't know how to tell her without making her sad. I sat on the floor of Emma's tiny room holding that diary and I couldn't breathe. My 8-year-old daughter was carrying burdens that should have been mine alone. She was hiding her pain, suppressing her needs, worrying about money and bills and things no child should ever have to worry about. And I hadn't even noticed. I'd been so focused on surviving, on working on paying bills, on keeping us fed and housed, that I'd missed the fact that my daughter was suffering in silence. The tears came before I could stop them. Not quiet tears, not controlled tears. Full body-shaking sobs that I couldn't contain. I heard footsteps. Jake appeared in the doorway. Mom, I tried to wipe my face, but it was useless. I'm fine. You're crying. I'm fine, I repeated. Jake came into the room and sat down beside me. He saw the diary in my hands and understood. She didn't want you to know, he said quietly. You knew about this. She tells me stuff sometimes, when she can't sleep. Jake, why didn't you? Because you already have too much to worry about. His voice was calm, adult. You don't need to know every time Emma's sad or I'm sad. You're doing enough. No, I grabbed his hand. No, honey, that's not how this works. I'm your mother. It's my job to worry about you. And it's my job to help. You're 12. So you shouldn't have to help. You should be a kid. We don't have that option anymore, Mom. He looked at me with those two old eyes. Not since Dad left. The truth of it hit me like a physical blow. My children had grown up too fast. They'd been forced to mature before their time because their father had abandoned them and their mother was barely holding it together. I'm sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Jake squeezed my hand. You're doing your best. We know that. My best isn't enough. Yes, it is. But I didn't believe him. The next morning I got a call from an unknown number. Ms. Mitchell, this is Marcus Okonkwo. I'm the CEO of Techverse Solutions. My stomach dropped. Is something wrong? No, not at all. Actually, I'm calling with good news. I'd like to schedule a meeting with you to discuss a promotion. I blinked. A promotion? I've only been here 5 months. And in those 5 months, you've completed the AI module that our senior developers struggled with for 2 years. You're consistently ahead of schedule. Your code is clean and well documented. You're exactly the kind of employee we want to invest in. I don't know what to say. Say yes to meeting with me, tomorrow 2 p.m. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table staring at my phone in disbelief. A promotion. Maybe, just maybe, things were starting to turn around. Maybe I could prove to a judge that I was stable, employed, capable. Maybe I wouldn't lose my children after all. I wanted to believe it, but there was a small, cynical voice in the back of my head that whispered, "It's too good to be true. Something's wrong." I ignored it. I had to. That night I went to the library as usual. Daniel was there teaching his class. I waved. He waved back. I opened my laptop and tried to focus on work, but my mind kept wandering to the upcoming meeting with Marcus. What would the promotion entail? More responsibility, better pay, better pay. That would help with the custody case. Jennifer had said financial stability was crucial. You look happy. I looked up. Daniel had finished his class and was packing up his things. I got some good news at work, I said. That's great. Congratulations. Thanks. I hesitated. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think Jake's doing okay? I mean, really okay. Daniel sat down across from me. Honestly? Honestly. He's struggling, but he's resilient. He's adapting. He paused. Kids are tougher than we give them credit for. He shouldn't have to be tough. He should be able to just be a kid. You're right, but that's not the world he's living in right now. Daniel's voice was kind. The best thing you can do is be there for him. Let him know he's not alone. I'm trying. I know. I can see that. We sat in silence for a moment. My wife died 3 years ago, Daniel said suddenly. Cancer. She was sick for 8 months before the end. I'm so sorry. My daughter Lily, she was 7 when it happened. She didn't talk for 6 months afterward. Wouldn't speak to me, wouldn't speak to her teachers. The therapist said it was trauma, grief. What did you do? I just stayed. I sat with her. I let her know I wasn't going anywhere, and eventually she started talking again. He looked at me. My point is, your kids are going through something hard, but they have you, and that matters more than you think. I felt tears prickling at the corners of my eyes. Thank you. Any time. He stood up to leave, then hesitated. Hey, if you ever need anything help with Jake's homework, someone to talk to, whatever, I'm around. Thank you. Really. After he left, I sat alone in the quiet library surrounded by books and strangers and the soft hum of fluorescent lights. For the first time in months, I didn't feel completely alone. The meeting with Marcus was scheduled for 2 p.m. the next day. I left work early, went home to change into my only professional outfit, a blazer I'd bought at Target, and drove to the office with my heart pounding. Marcus's office was small but modern. Glass walls, minimalist furniture, a view of the Austin skyline. He was a tall man in his mid-40s, Nigerian-American with kind eyes and a firm handshake. "Sarah, thanks for coming." "Of course, thank you for the opportunity." He gestured for me to sit. "I'll get straight to the point. I've been impressed with your work. The AI module you built has already improved our customer retention by 15%. That's significant." "Thank you." "I'd like to promote you to senior developer. It comes with a salary increase to $95,000 a year, full benefits, and a 3-year contract." I nearly fell out of my chair. $95,000, that's the market rate for your skill level. You're worth it. I don't know what to say. This is incredible. Thank you. Marcus smiled. "There's one more thing I need to tell you, and I want to be completely honest with you about it." My stomach tightened. Here it comes, the catch. "I knew who you were before I hired you," Marcus said. "I knew you were Brad Mitchell's ex-wife." The room suddenly felt very cold. "What, mate?" "Brad and I worked together at Oracle 8 years ago. We were both regional managers, competing for the same promotion." "I don't understand. Why would that then Brad won the promotion, but not through merit. He lied to our VP, told him I'd been leaking confidential information to a competitor. It wasn't true, but by the time I proved my innocence, the damage was done. I was fired." My mind was reeling. "You hired me to get back at Brad." "Initially, yes." Marcus leaned forward. "I wanted to prove that the woman he'd dismissed and abandoned was capable of more than he ever gave you credit for. I wanted him to see you succeed." I felt sick. "So this whole time, the job, the promotion, it's all just been about revenge?" "No." His voice was firm. "That's what I'm trying to tell you. When I hired you, my motives were petty. But after 5 months of watching you work, I realized something I was right about you for the wrong reasons." "What does that mean?" "It means you're genuinely talented, Sarah. You're hardworking, dedicated, and brilliant. The promotion isn't charity. It's what you've earned." He slid a contract across the desk. "I'm telling you this because I believe in transparency. You deserve to know the whole truth. And if you want to walk away, I understand." I stared at the contract. $95,000 a year, benefits, security, everything I needed to prove to a judge that I was stable. But it had all started as a lie. "Can I think about it?" I asked. "Of course, take your time." I left his office in a daze. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Marcus's confession, about the fact that my job, my lifeline, had been built on someone else's vendetta. Did it matter? The work was real. The paycheck was real. The promotion was real. But it felt tainted somehow. At 2 a.m. I gave up on sleep and went to the living room. I was surprised to find Jake awake, sitting on the couch staring at his phone. "Buddy, what are you doing up?" He looked up and I saw something in his expression that made my heart sink. Fear. "I need to show you something," he said quietly. He handed me his phone. There was a text message from Brad, son. "I know things are confusing right now, but I need you to understand something. Your mom is doing her best, but it's not good enough. You and Emma deserve better. I can give you that. I can give you your old room back, your old life back. All you have to do is tell the judge the truth that you're not happy living with mom, that you want to come home. Think about it. Okay, I love you." I read it 3 times, my hands shaking with rage. "Jake." "He's been texting me for 2 weeks, Jake said. "Ever since he filed the custody thing. He keeps saying the same stuff, that you can't take care of us, that I should live with him." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you already have enough to worry about." I sat down beside him. "Listen to me. You don't have to respond to these messages. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. But what if the judge asks me, what if I have to choose then you tell the truth, whatever that truth is. What if the truth hurts you? Then it hurts me, but I would rather be hurt by the truth than by you suffering in silence." Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I don't want to live with Dad. I want to stay with you." Relief flooded through me. "Okay, but I'm scared." "Of what?" "That Dad is right, that you can't take care of us, that we're too much." "Jake," I took his face in my hands. "You are not too much. You have never been too much. You and Emma are the only things in this world that matter to me. Do you understand? He nodded, but I could see he didn't quite believe me, and that broke my heart more than anything Brad had done. The decision about Marcus's offer kept me awake for 3 nights straight. On one hand, it was everything I needed. The salary increase would prove financial stability. The 3-year contract would show long-term security. It would strengthen my custody case immeasurably. On the other hand, it was built on a lie, and I'd had enough of lies. On the 4th morning, I walked into Marcus's office without an appointment. "I'll take the promotion," I said, "but I need to know something first." He looked up from his computer. "What's that?" If I hadn't been Brad's ex-wife, if I'd been just another applicant with a 10-year gap in my resume, would you have given me a chance? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Honestly, probably not." The truth stung, but I appreciated it. "But here's what I've learned," he continued. "Sometimes the right decisions come from the wrong motivations. I hired you for petty reasons, but keeping you promoting you, that's because you're damn good at what you do." "I need this job," I said quietly. "Not just for me, for my kids. My ex-husband is trying to take them away, and I need to prove I can provide for them." "Then take the promotion. Use it. You've earned it." I signed the contract. As I walked back to my desk, I felt a mixture of relief and unease. I'd won something, but at what cost? Two weeks later, I received a notice from the court. The custody hearing was scheduled for August 15th. 6 weeks away. Jennifer Nguyen called me that afternoon. "Sarah, we need to start preparing your testimony, and we need character witnesses, people who can vouch for your parenting. I have Maria, my neighbor, and Patricia from my Women in Tech group." "Good. Anyone else, teachers, doctors, family members?" I thought about Dr. Patel, about Daniel Chen, about the community I'd been quietly building in the margins of my chaotic life. "I'll make a list," I said. That night I sat down with Jake and Emma. "I need to talk to you both about something important." They sat on the couch looking at me with worried eyes. "You know Dad wants to change our custody arrangement. That means there might be a hearing where a judge asks questions about where you want to live." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "We have to choose." "No, baby, you don't have to choose. But the judge might ask you about your life, about school, about how you feel about what you want." "I want to stay with you," Emma said immediately. "Me too," Jake added. "I know, but I need you to understand something." I took a breath. "No matter what happens, no matter what the judge decides, I will always love you, and I will never stop fighting for you." "Are we going to lose?" Emma asked. "I don't know. We're going to do our best," I said instead. "And sometimes that's all we can do." The next month was a blur of preparation. Jennifer and I met twice a week to go over testimony, to review evidence, to strategize. She was young and inexperienced, but she was thorough. She cared. And that had to be enough. I documented everything. Every meal I cooked. Every homework assignment I helped with. Every doctor's appointment, parent-teacher conference, bedtime story. Maria agreed to testify. So did Patricia. So did Daniel Chen, though I felt guilty asking him. "You don't owe me anything," I'd said when I called him. "I know, but Jake's a good kid. And you're a good mom. I'm happy to help." Dr. Patel also agreed to testify, though her testimony would be more clinical, focused on Emma's medical history and the correlation between her asthma attacks and stress. Meanwhile, Brad's lawyer was building his case. Carter Walsh sent subpoenas to Jake's school requesting his full academic record. He requested Emma's complete medical history from Dell Seton. He even hired a private investigator to photograph our apartment building, documenting the graffiti on the exterior wall and the broken playground equipment in the courtyard. Every piece of evidence was designed to paint one picture: Sarah Mitchell cannot provide a safe, stable environment for her children. And the worst part was he wasn't entirely wrong. Our apartment was small. The neighborhood did have a higher crime rate than Westlake Hills. Emma had been hospitalized 3 times. The facts were on Brad's side. All I had was love. And in family court, sometimes love wasn't enough. 6 weeks before the hearing, something happened that I didn't expect. I found out Jake had been lying to me. It was a Saturday morning. I'd woken up early to make breakfast pancakes, Emma's favorite, when I noticed Jake's shoes were missing from the rack by the door. I checked his room. Empty. It was 6:30 a.m. Where could he possibly be? I called his phone. No answer. I was about to call the police when I heard the front door open. Jake walked in sweaty and exhausted, wearing his running shoes and carrying a canvas bag. "Where have you been?" I demanded. He froze. I went for a run. At 6:30 in the morning. Yeah. Jake, don't lie to me. Where were you really? He looked down at his feet. I was working. Working? What are you talking about? He opened the canvas bag. Inside were newspapers and $20 bills. I've been delivering papers, he said quietly, for the Austin American-Statesman. 5 to 7 a.m. Monday through Saturday. I make $50 a week. My heart stopped. Jake, you're 12 years old. I know. You can't. You shouldn't have to work. That's my job. But you're already working so hard, and I wanted to help. Help with what? Money. For the lawyer? For Emma's medical bills? For rent? His voice cracked. I heard you on the phone with the billing department. I know you can't pay the hospital. I pulled him into a hug even though he was drenched in sweat. Oh, Jake. I'm sorry, he whispered. I should have told you. You don't have to be sorry, but you can't keep doing this. Why not? Because you're a child, because you deserve to be a child, because I'm the parent and it's my job to take care of you, not the other way around. But what if you can't? The question hung in the air between us. Then we'll figure it out together, I said finally. But I need you to promise me something. No more secrets. If you're struggling, if you're scared, if you need something, you tell me. Okay. Okay. But I could see in his eyes that he didn't really believe we'd be okay. And honestly, neither did I. 4 weeks before the hearing, Emma had another asthma attack. This time it happened at school. I got the call at 2 p.m. The school nurse voice tight with worry. Miss Mitchell, Emma's having trouble breathing. We've called an ambulance. I left work immediately, ignoring Marcus's concerned questions, and drove to Dell Children's Hospital with my heart in my throat. By the time I arrived, Emma was stable. Oxygen mask, IV fluids, frightened eyes. Hi, baby, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. I'm sorry, Mama. Don't apologize, it's not your fault. But as I sat beside her hospital bed, I couldn't help thinking, this is the 4th time. Brad's lawyer is going to use this against me. Dr. Patel came in an hour later to examine Emma. After checking her vitals and reviewing her chart, she asked to speak with me privately in the hallway. Sarah, I need to be honest with you about something. My stomach dropped. Emma's asthma isn't getting worse because of environmental factors. It's getting worse because of psychological stress. What do you mean? I've been tracking her episodes. Every single one has occurred within 24 to 48 hours of contact with her father. Phone calls, text messages, or in-person visits. I stared at her. You're saying Brad is causing this, not directly, but the anxiety she feels around him is triggering psychosomatic responses. Her body is manifesting her emotional distress as physical symptoms. Can you prove that I have 6 months of documentation, detailed notes on every episode including what preceded it. If you need me to testify in court, I will. Relief washed over me. Thank you. God, thank you. Sarah, there's something else I want to say. Dr. Patel's expression softened. You're one of the best mothers I've ever met. You show up. You advocate for your daughter. You're doing everything right. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. I wanted to believe her, but it was hard when the evidence seemed to suggest I was failing. 3 weeks before the hearing, I attended my Women in Tech meetup. I'd been going to these monthly gatherings for 4 months now. It was a group of about 20 women software engineers, data scientists, product managers, all navigating the male-dominated tech industry. Patricia Williams, my mentor, always saved me a seat. How are you holding up? She asked as I sat down beside her. Barely. That's better than not at all. Patricia was 55, black with silver-streaked hair, and the kind of confidence that came from surviving 2 divorces and 25 years in tech. She reminded me of what I could become if I just kept going. My custody hearing is in 3 weeks, I said. You nervous? Terrified? Good. Fear means you care. She took a sip of her wine. You know what I learned from my divorces? The legal system doesn't reward good mothers. It rewards mothers who can afford good lawyers. That's depressing. It's realistic. But here's the thing, you're not just a good mother. You're also a damn good developer. You're proving every day that you can provide for your kids. That matters. I hope the judge thinks so. The judge will think whatever the evidence tells them to think. So make sure the evidence is in your favor. After the meeting, Patricia pulled me aside. I'm testifying on your behalf, right? If you're willing. Of course I'm willing. I'm going to tell that judge exactly what kind of woman you are: resilient, intelligent, and tougher than nails. Brad's lawyer won't know what hit him. I hugged her. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just win. 2 weeks before the hearing, Daniel Chen invited me and the kids to a picnic at Zilker Park. I almost said no. I had so much to prepare, so many things to worry about. But Jake needed normalcy. Emma needed joy. And honestly, so did I. So we went. Daniel brought his daughter Lily, a quiet 10-year-old with dark hair and her father's kind eyes. She and Emma hit it off immediately, running toward the playground while Jake hung back sullen and suspicious. He doesn't like me much, does he? Daniel said, watching Jake. It's not personal. Yes, it is. And that's okay. We spread a blanket on the grass. Daniel had brought sandwiches, fruit, and homemade cookies that Lily had helped bake. It was simple, normal, the kind of thing families did, except we weren't a family. Can I ask you something? Daniel said after a while. Sure. Why did you agree to come today? You seem like you have a lot on your plate. Because my kids needed this. They needed to remember what it feels like to just be kids. What about you? What do you need? The question caught me off guard. When was the last time anyone had asked me that? I don't know, I said honestly. I've spent so long just surviving that I forgot what it's like to actually live. Maybe it's time to remember. We watched the kids play. Emma was laughing a real full-bodied laugh that I hadn't heard in months. Even Jake had cracked a smile while throwing a frisbee with Lily. Can I tell you something? Daniel said. When Michelle, my wife, was dying, I spent every day trying to prepare for the moment she'd be gone. I read books about grief. I saw therapists. I thought if I could just prepare enough, it wouldn't hurt so much. Did it work? No. When she died, it destroyed me anyway. All that preparation was useless. He looked at me. My point is, you can't prepare for every outcome. Sometimes you just have to trust that you'll survive whatever comes. And if I don't, then you don't. But at least you'll know you tried. It wasn't comforting exactly, but it was honest. And I needed honesty more than comfort. Chad, that night after the kids were asleep, I found myself crying in the shower. Not because anything had gone wrong, but because something had gone right. For 3 hours at that park, I'd felt almost normal, almost happy. And it terrified me, because happiness felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. Every moment of joy was a moment I wasn't preparing for court. Every smile was a moment I wasn't fighting for my children. How could I be happy when everything was falling apart? But then I thought about what Daniel had said. Sometimes you just have to trust that you'll survive. Maybe he was right. Maybe I needed to stop just surviving and start believing I could actually win. 1 week before the hearing, Jennifer and I had our final preparation meeting. We met at a coffee shop, legal documents spread across the table between us. Okay, she said, pulling out her notes. Let's go over your testimony one more time. Carter Walsh is going to try to make you look unstable. We need to counter every argument he makes. How? By being honest. By showing the judge that while your circumstances aren't perfect, you're doing everything in your power to provide for your children. She walked me through the likely questions. Why did you move to a smaller apartment? Because it was what I could afford after the divorce. But it's clean, safe, and my children have everything they need. Why did you allow your employment gap to last 10 years? Because I was married to someone who promised to support our family. I trusted him. I was wrong. Why have your children's grades and health declined since the divorce? Because divorce is traumatic for children. But with support and stability, they're improving. Jennifer made me practice my answers over and over until they felt natural. Remember, she said, Carter Walsh is going to try to rattle you. He's going to bring up every mistake, every shortcoming, every moment you weren't perfect. But here's what you need to remember. No parent is perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be enough. What if I'm not? You are. Trust me. I wanted to trust her, but trusting people hadn't worked out so well for me in the past. And 3 days before this hearing, something unexpected happened. I got a call from Marcus. Sarah, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. My stomach dropped. Carter Walsh contacted me. He wants me to testify. Testify about what, Mo? About the circumstances under which I hired you. He knows about my history with Brad. He's going to argue that you only got the job because of personal connections, that your employment isn't based on merit. But that's not true. I know it's not true. You know it's not true. But Walsh is going to twist it to fit his narrative. So what do? I testify, but I tell the truth, all of it. I'll admit that I hired you initially for the wrong reasons. But I'll also explain that I promoted you because you're genuinely talented. It might hurt your case short term, but it's better than letting Walsh control the narrative. Marcus, you don't have to. Yes, I do. You're a good person, Sarah, and good people deserve good outcomes. After we hung up, I sat in my car and tried not to panic. This was bad. If the judge thought my job was based on favoritism rather than skill, it would undermine everything Jennifer and I had been building. But what choice did I have? All I could do was tell the truth and hope it was enough. The night before the hearing, I couldn't sleep. I lay on the pull-out couch in the living room, staring at the ceiling, running through testimony in my head. At 2 a.m., I heard movement. Jake. He came into the living room and sat on the edge of the couch. Can't sleep? I asked. No. Me neither. We sat in silence for a while. Then Jake said, Mom, can I ask you something? Anything? Do you ever wish you hadn't had us? The question hit me like a punch to the gut. What, Jake? No. Never. But if you didn't have me and Emma, you wouldn't have to deal with all this. You could have finished school. You could have had a real career. You wouldn't be fighting Dad in court. Jake, look at me. He did. You and Emma are the best things that ever happened to me. Not the easiest things. Not the simplest things. But the best things. Do you understand? But we made your life harder. You made my life meaningful. I took his hand. Before I had you, I thought success meant having a fancy job and a big house and impressing people. But you know what I learned? None of that matters. What matters is having someone you'd do anything for, someone worth fighting for. Even if you lose. Even if I lose, because the fight itself proves something. It proves that you mattered enough to fight for. Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I'm scared about tomorrow. Me too. What if the judge makes me choose? What if I have to say I want to live with Dad? Is that what you want? No, but what if that's what Dad needs to hear? What if it makes him happy? Jake, your father's happiness is not your responsibility. You're 12 years old. The only thing you need to worry about is being honest. But what if my honesty hurts you? Then it hurts me. I'm the adult. I can handle it. He leaned against me and I wrapped my arm around him. Tomorrow, no matter what happens, I need you to remember something. I said, I love you. I'm proud of you. And you are not responsible for any of this. Okay. But I could hear in his voice that he didn't quite believe me. The morning of the hearing, I woke up at 5 a.m. I showered. I dressed in my one good suit navy blue purchased from a consignment shop. I braided my hair. I put on minimal makeup. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman who was trying very hard to appear like she had everything together, but my hands were shaking. Maria knocked on the door at 7 a.m. She'd volunteered to watch the kids during the hearing. Jake and Emma would be called as witnesses later, but Jennifer wanted to shield them from the initial proceedings. You look beautiful, Maria said. I looked terrified. Same thing. She hugged me. You're going to do great. Just tell the truth. What if the truth isn't enough? Then the system is broken, but you'll know you did everything you could. I hugged Jake and Emma goodbye. We'll be okay, Emma said, trying to comfort me. I know, baby. I'll see you soon. Jake didn't say anything. He just hugged me tight and didn't let go for a long time. Travis County Family Court was a blocky, bureaucratic building in downtown Austin. Jennifer met me in the lobby at 8:30 a.m. Ready? she asked. No. Good. If you were ready, I'd be worried. We took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected, just a few rows of seats, a judge's bench, and 2 tables for the attorneys. Brad was already there, sitting with Carter Walsh. He was wearing an expensive suit and looking confident. When he saw me, he didn't smile. He just nodded slightly like we were business associates rather than 2 people who'd once promised to love each other forever. I hated him in that moment. Not for leaving me, but for making our children collateral damage in whatever midlife crisis he was having. The bailiff called the court to order. All rise for the Honorable Judge Rebecca Lawson. Judge Lawson entered a woman in her early 50s with sharp eyes and graying hair pulled back in a bun. She looked like someone who'd seen every trick in the book and wasn't impressed by any of them. Please be seated, she said. We're here today to hear a petition for modification of custody in the matter of Mitchell v. Mitchell. Mr. Walsh, you may proceed. Carter Walsh stood. He was polished, confident, and terrifyingly competent. Your Honor, my client, Mr. Brad Mitchell, is here today because he's deeply concerned about the welfare of his children. Since the divorce was finalized 8 months ago, there has been a significant decline in the children's quality of life. We have documentation showing that the minor child, Emma Mitchell, has been hospitalized 4 times for asthma-related emergencies, all under the sole care of Ms. Sarah Mitchell. We have academic records showing that the minor child, Jake Mitchell's GPA has dropped from a 3.8 to a 2.3. We have photographs and witness statements indicating that Ms. Mitchell is residing in a 2-bedroom apartment in a high-crime neighborhood where she herself sleeps on a couch in the living room. He pulled out a folder filled with exhibits, photos, medical records, report cards. Your Honor, Mr. Mitchell is not here to denigrate his ex-wife. He acknowledges that she loves their children, but love alone is not sufficient. These children deserve stability, safety, and resources that Ms. Mitchell simply cannot provide. Judge Lawson looked at the documents, her expression unreadable. Ms. Nguyen, your response, Jennifer stood. I could see her hands shaking slightly, but her voice was steady. Your Honor, Mr. Walsh is presenting a very narrow view of my client's circumstances. Yes, Ms. Mitchell moved to a smaller apartment because she was left with inadequate child support and no spousal support. Yes, Emma has had medical emergencies, but Drs. Patel, her treating physician, will testify that these episodes are linked to stress caused by contact with Mr. Mitchell, not by Ms. Mitchell's care. Yes, Jake's grades have declined, but his teachers will testify that he's dealing with the trauma of his father's abandonment and that Ms. Mitchell has been actively supporting his recovery. She pulled out her own folder. Most importantly, Your Honor, Ms. Mitchell has done something remarkable in the past 8 months. She taught herself to code. She secured a job as a developer. She's been promoted to senior developer with a salary of $95,000 per year. She's building a stable life for her children against incredible odds. That's not failure. That's resilience. Judge Lawson made a note. I'll hear testimony from both sides. Mr. Walsh, call your first witness. The petitioner calls Brad Mitchell to the stand. Brad stood and walked to the witness box. He was sworn in and Carter Walsh began his examination. Mr. Mitchell, can you describe your relationship with your children before the divorce? I was very involved, Brad said smoothly. I attended school events, coached Jake's soccer team, read bedtime stories to Emma. I was a present father. Lie. He'd missed more games than he'd attended. He'd been too busy with work to read bedtime stories. And after the divorce, I've tried to maintain that relationship, but Ms. Mitchell has made it difficult. She's been uncooperative about visitation schedules. She's made the children anxious about spending time with me, and she's introduced a new man into their lives without consulting me. Another lie. I'd bent over backward to accommodate his sporadic visitation requests. And Daniel was Jake's teacher, not some random man. Can you describe the conditions in which your children are currently living? They're living in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in East Austin. The building has graffiti on the exterior. The playground equipment is broken. Sarah sleeps on a couch because there isn't enough space. Jake and Emma share a room that's barely large enough for 2 twin beds. Technically true, but he made it sound like a crack den rather than a modest but clean apartment. Mr. Mitchell, what are you requesting from the court? I want 50-50 custody. I have a 4-bedroom house in Westlake Hills. Jake and Emma can each have their own room. I can provide them with stability resources and opportunities that Sarah simply cannot match. When it was Jennifer's turn to cross-examine, she stood and approached the witness stand. Mr. Mitchell, you said you were a very involved father before the divorce. Is that correct? Yes. How many of Jake's soccer games did you attend last season? Brad hesitated. I don't recall exactly. I have testimony from Jake's coach that you attended 3 out of 16 games. Does that sound accurate? I had work obligations. Did you attend Emma's dance recital in May of last year? I believe I had a business trip. You did? To Cancun, with Miss Melissa Torres, correct? Brad's jaw tightened. That's irrelevant. Your Honor, I'm establishing a pattern of absence. Judge Lawson nodded. I'll allow it. Jennifer continued. Mr. Mitchell, you claim Ms. Mitchell has made visitation difficult. How many times have you exercised your visitation rights in the past 4 months? I've had work conflicts. How many times, Mr. Mitchell? Twice. Twice in 4 months. And during those visits, how long did you spend with the children? A few hours each time. A few hours. Meanwhile, Ms. Mitchell has been with them every single day, cooking for them, helping with homework, taking them to doctor's appointments, tucking them in at night. Would you agree that's a bit more than a few hours? Objection, Carter Walsh said. Argumentative. Sustained, Judge Lawson said. Nah, Ms. When ask questions, don't make speeches. Apologies, Your Honor. Jennifer turned back to Brad. Mr. Mitchell, when was the last time you called your children? I'm not sure. According to phone records, you haven't called them in 6 weeks. Does that sound like a present father to you? Brad didn't answer. Jennifer sat down. No further questions. The morning session continued with more witnesses for Brad's side. His mother, who testified about what a wonderful father he was. A child psychologist who'd never actually met Jake or Emma, but offered general testimony about the importance of stable home environments. And a neighbor from our old subdivision who said she'd always worried about Sarah's ability to cope. It was death by 1,000 cuts. By lunchtime, I felt like I'd been beaten down. Jennifer tried to reassure me during the break. They haven't landed any fatal blows. We just need our witnesses to be strong this afternoon. What if they're not? They will be. Have faith. But faith had never been my strong suit. The afternoon session began at 2 p.m. Jennifer called her first witness, Maria Rodriguez. Maria walked to the stand with her head held high. She was wearing her best dress, a simple floral print she usually saved for church, and her hands were clasped tightly in front of her. After being sworn in, Jennifer began. Ms. Rodriguez, how do you know Sarah Mitchell? She's my neighbor. We live in the same apartment building. I've known her for 8 months. And in that time, what have you observed about her relationship with her children? She's an excellent mother. She's always with them. She cooks for them, helps with homework, takes them to school every morning. Have you ever witnessed Ms. Mitchell being neglectful or abusive? Never. She's patient and loving even when she's exhausted. Ms. Rodriguez, you're a single mother yourself, is that correct? Yes. I have 3 children. I've been raising them alone for 8 years. So you understand the challenges Ms. Mitchell faces. Objection, Carter Walsh said. Relevance. Your Honor, I'm establishing that Ms. Rodriguez has personal experience that qualifies her to assess Ms. Mitchell's parenting, Jennifer said. I'll allow it, but get to the point, Ms. Nguyen. Ms. Rodriguez, in your experience as a single mother, how would you rate Ms. Mitchell's parenting? Maria looked directly at the judge. She's one of the best mothers I've ever known. She doesn't have money. She doesn't have help, but she shows up every single day. That's what matters. Carter Walsh's cross-examination was brief, but pointed. Ms. Rodriguez, you work 2 shifts at a restaurant, correct? Yes. So you're not home much to observe Ms. Mitchell's day-to-day parenting. I see her every morning and evening, but you don't see what happens inside her apartment. You don't see her struggles, her stress, her moments of frustration. I see enough to know she's a good mother. Or perhaps you see what she wants you to see. Maria's eyes flashed. I see a woman doing her best in impossible circumstances. That's more than I can say for some fathers. She glanced at Brad. The implication was clear. No further questions, Carter Walsh said. The next witness was Patricia Williams. Patricia took the stand with the confidence of someone who'd testified in depositions and board meetings. She was unshakable. Ms. Williams, how do you know Sarah Mitchell? Jennifer asked. I'm her mentor through the Women Who Code Austin organization. We've been working together for 4 months. Can you describe Ms. Mitchell's professional abilities? She's exceptional. In the short time she's been learning to code, she's surpassed developers with years of experience. She's dedicated, intelligent, and resourceful. Would you say she's capable of providing financial stability for her children? Absolutely. She's already proven that. She went from unemployed to earning $95,000 a year in less than a year. That's remarkable. Carter Walsh's cross-examination focused on trying to undermine my accomplishments. Ms. Williams, you said Ms. Mitchell learned to code in less than a year. Isn't that unusually fast? It's fast, but not unprecedented. Sarah had a background in computer science from UT Austin. She was simply reactivating skills she'd already developed. A background she never completed, correct. She completed all but the final semester. Her knowledge is equivalent to a graduate. But she doesn't have a degree. Neither do half the successful developers I know. In tech, what matters is what you can build, not what's on your diploma. Carter Walsh changed tactics. Ms. Williams, are you testifying today because you genuinely believe Ms. Mitchell is a good mother, or because you want to support a fellow woman in tech? Patricia smiled slightly. I'm testifying because I believe in telling the truth. And the truth is that Sarah Mitchell is both a talented developer and a devoted mother. The two aren't mutually exclusive. Then came Dr. Kavita Patel. She was Jennifer's secret weapon, the one witness who could potentially turn the entire case. After being sworn in, Jennifer established her credentials 20 years as a pulmonologist, board-certified, published researcher. Dr. Patel, you've been treating Emma Mitchell for how long? 6 months. And in that time, how many asthma-related episodes has she had? 4 major episodes requiring hospitalization and several minor episodes managed at home. Is this typical for a child with asthma? No. Emma's case is unusual because her episodes don't follow typical patterns. They're not triggered by environmental allergens or physical exertion. What are they triggered by? Psychological stress. The courtroom seemed to still. Can you elaborate on that, Dr. Patel? Emma's asthma is psychosomatic. Her episodes are triggered by anxiety and emotional distress. I've been tracking her episodes for 6 months, and I've identified a clear pattern. Jennifer handed her a document. Is this your medical report? Yes. Can you walk us through what you found? Dr. Patel opened the report. Episode 1 occurred on March 12th, approximately 36 hours after Emma had a phone call with her father. Episode 2 occurred on April 3rd, 24 hours after an in-person visit with her father, where he promised to take her to Disneyland but later canceled. Episode 3 occurred on May 15th, immediately after Emma overheard her father discussing the custody petition with his lawyer. Episode 4 occurred just last week after Mr. Mitchell sent Emma a text message asking her to think about where she'd be happiest living. Judge Lawson looked up sharply. Mr. Mitchell sent a text message to his 8-year-old daughter about custody. According to Emma's phone records, yes, Your Honor. Brad shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Dr. Patel, what is your medical opinion regarding the cause of Emma's episodes? Emma is not sick because her mother is providing inadequate care. Emma is sick because she's terrified of losing her mother. Her body is manifesting that fear as asthma attacks. And if Emma were to live primarily with her father, I believe her condition would worsen significantly. Children need stability and emotional safety. Emma has that with Ms. Mitchell. She does not have it with Mr. Mitchell. Carter Walsh's cross-examination tried to poke holes in the theory. Dr. Patel, isn't it true that psychosomatic diagnoses are often subjective? All diagnoses involve some degree of clinical judgment, but in this case, the pattern is undeniable. Couldn't Emma's episodes be caused by the general stress of the divorce rather than by Mr. Mitchell specifically? If that were the case, the episodes would be more randomly distributed. But they're not. They consistently occur within 48 hours of contact with Mr. Mitchell. Couldn't that be coincidental? 4 times no. That's not coincidence. That's causation. Carter Walsh had no response to that. Then Jennifer called Marcus Okonkwo. This was the moment I'd been dreading. Marcus's testimony could either strengthen my case or destroy it. After being sworn in, Jennifer established his role as CEO of TechVerse Solutions. Mr. Okonkwo, Sarah Mitchell works for your company, correct, Mai? Yes. She's a senior developer. Can you describe the circumstances under which you hired her? Marcus took a breath. I need to be completely honest about this, even though it may be uncomfortable. Here it comes. I hired Sarah because I knew she was Brad Mitchell's ex-wife. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Judge Lawson banged her gavel. Order, Marcus continued. Brad and I worked together at Oracle 8 years ago. We were competing for the same promotion. Brad lied to our superiors, claiming I'd leaked confidential information to a competitor. It wasn't true, but by the time I proved my innocence, I'd been fired. It took me 3 years to rebuild my career. So you hired Ms. Mitchell for revenge? Jennifer asked. Initially, yes. I wanted to prove that the woman Brad had underestimated could succeed beyond his wildest imagination. I wanted him to see that. Brad's face had gone pale. But something happened, Marcus continued. Sarah turned out to be genuinely brilliant. She built an AI module that my team of 5 engineers had been struggling with for 2 years. She finished it in 3 months. She's consistently exceeded every expectation I've set. So your opinion of her abilities changed. Completely. I promoted her not because of my vendetta against Brad, but because she earned it. She's one of the most talented developers I've ever worked with. Jennifer showed him the signed contract. Is this the contract you offered Ms. Mitchell? Yes. $95,000 per year, full benefits, 3-year guarantee. I don't offer contracts like that to charity cases. I offer them to people I can't afford to lose. Carter Walsh's cross-examination was brutal. Mr. Okonkwo, you just admitted that you hired Ms. Mitchell under false pretenses. How can the court trust anything else you say? Because I'm telling the truth now. Yes, my initial motivations were questionable, but Sarah's abilities are not. Convenient that you're now praising her after admitting you used her as a pawn in your personal grudge. I'm praising her because she deserves praise. You can question my motives all you want, but you can't question her code. It's public record. Anyone with technical knowledge can verify that she's exceptional. Your Honor, I move to strike Mr. Okonkwo's testimony as unreliable given his admitted bias. Motion denied, Judge Lawson said. The witness's candor about his initial motivations actually increases his credibility in my view. Continue. Carter Walsh looked frustrated but pressed on. Mr. Okonkwo, regardless of Ms. Mitchell's technical abilities, does that qualify her as a fit parent? I'm not here to assess her parenting. I'm here to confirm that she has stable, well-paying employment, something your client's petition disputes, and I can confirm unequivocally that she does. Dad. Then came Daniel Chen. I'd almost told Jennifer not to call him. His testimony felt too personal, too exposing. But Jennifer had insisted. Jake's teacher can speak to Jake's emotional state. That's crucial. Daniel took the stand, and I noticed Brad's eyes narrow. He'd seen the photographs Walsh's investigator had taken of me and Daniel at the library. Mr. Chen, you're Jake Mitchell's math teacher, correct? Yes, for the past academic year. Can you describe Jake as a student? Jake is one of the brightest students I've ever taught. He has a natural aptitude for mathematics and problem solving, but this year his performance declined significantly. Why do you think that is? He's dealing with trauma. Divorce, relocation, financial stress. His father's absence. These are heavy burdens for a 12-year-old. Have you observed how Ms. Mitchell responds to Jake's struggles? She's been incredibly proactive. She attends every parent-teacher conference. She communicates regularly about Jake's progress. She's implemented every suggestion I've made for supporting him at home. She's doing everything right. And Mr. Mitchell? I've never met Mr. Mitchell. He's never attended a conference, never responded to my emails, never shown any interest in Jake's education. Carter Walsh's cross-examination tried to make the relationship between Daniel and me seem inappropriate. Mr. Chen, you've spent time with Ms. Mitchell outside of school functions, haven't you? I've encountered her at the public library where I volunteer teaching English. And you've spent time with her children, socially correct. We had a picnic at Zilker Park. My daughter and Emma are friends. Isn't it true that you have romantic feelings for Ms. Mitchell? Daniel didn't flinch. I respect Sarah greatly. Whether or not those feelings might develop into something more in the future is irrelevant to this proceeding. What's relevant is that Jake and Emma need stability, consistency, and love, all of which Sarah provides. But you're biased in her favor. I'm biased toward the truth. And the truth is that Sarah Mitchell is a devoted mother who's doing everything humanly possible to care for her children. I'm biased toward that. Finally, it was time for Jake to testify. I'd hoped to spare him this, but Carter Walsh had specifically requested that both children be questioned. Jake walked to the witness stand looking small and scared. He was wearing his best clothes khakis and a button-down shirt I'd bought at Target. Judge Lawson spoke gently. Jake, I know this is difficult, but I need to ask you some questions about your life. You just need to answer honestly, okay? Okay. Do you understand that you're not in trouble? This isn't about you doing anything wrong. I understand. Good. She glanced at her notes. Jake, can you tell me where you want to live? The courtroom held its breath. Jake looked at me, then at Brad, then back at the judge. I want to live with my mom. Can you tell me why? Jake's voice was steady. Because Mom is always there. She helps me with homework. She makes dinner every night. She tucks Emma in. She doesn't miss things. What about your father? Don't you want to spend time with him? Jake hesitated. Dad's busy. He has work. He has his own life. That doesn't answer my question. Jake took a breath. Dad told me that if I said I wanted to live with him, he'd buy me an Xbox Series X and I could have my old room back. The courtroom erupted. Judge Lawson banged her gavel. Brad had gone white. Jake, Judge Lawson said carefully, your father offered you gifts in exchange for testimony. He didn't say it like that, but yeah, that's what he meant. Carter Walsh stood up. Your Honor, I object. The child is mischaracterizing. Sit down, Mr. Walsh. Judge Lawson's voice was ice. Jake, do you have these text messages? Yes, ma'am. Bailiff, please retrieve Jake's phone and enter the relevant messages into evidence. The bailiff did so. The messages were projected on a screen for everyone to see. Jake, buddy, I know this is hard, but I need you to think about what you really want. Do you want to keep living in that cramped apartment, or do you want your old life back? I can give that to you. New Xbox, your own room, everything you used to have. All you have to do is be honest with the judge about how hard things have been with Mom. Another message, I'm not asking you to lie. Just tell the judge the truth that you're not happy, that you miss your old house, that you want to come home. Judge Lawson's expression was thunderous. Mr. Mitchell, did you send these messages? Brad stood. Your Honor, I was just trying to answer the question. Did you send these messages? Yes, but no buts. You attempted to manipulate your 12-year-old son into testifying against his mother by bribing him. Do you have any idea how inappropriate that is? I didn't mean it like, sit down. Brad sat. Judge Lawson turned back to Jake. Jake, I need you to answer me honestly. Not because of what your father promised you, and not because you're worried about hurting your mother. Just the truth. Where do you want to live? Jake's voice broke. I want to live with Mom. Not because Dad offered me stuff, but because Mom actually wants me. Dad just doesn't want to pay child support. How do you know that? I heard him. On the phone. He told someone I don't know who that if he got 50-50 custody, he could cut his payments in half. He said it would save him over $10,000 a year. Carter Walsh stood. Your Honor, this is hearsay. This is a child testifying about what he personally heard. It's not hearsay. Continue, Jake. Jake looked at Brad, and for the first time I saw anger in my son's eyes. Dad doesn't love us. He loves himself. He loves his car and his apartment and his image, but he doesn't love me and Emma. Jake, Brad started. You forgot my birthday. You missed my championship game. You didn't come to the hospital when Emma was sick. Not once. Not one time. Brad opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Mom isn't perfect, Jake continued. We don't have a lot of money. Our apartment is small, but Mom shows up. Every single day. She's there. Judge Lawson made a note. Thank you, Jake. You can step down. Jake walked back to his seat, and I wanted to hug him so badly it physically hurt. Then it was Emma's turn. My 8-year-old baby walked to the witness stand, and my heart shattered. She looked so small sitting there, her feet barely reaching the floor. Judge Lawson's voice was even gentler with Emma. Hi, Emma. How are you feeling? Nervous. That's okay. You don't need to be scared. I just want to ask you a few questions. Okay. Emma, do you know why we're here today? Because Dad wants us to live with him sometimes. How do you feel about that? Emma's eyes filled with tears. I don't want to. Why not? Because I'm scared. Scared of what? Scared that if I leave Mom, she'll be all alone, and she'll be sad. Judge Lawson's expression softened. Emma, that's very sweet. But your mother is a grown-up. She can take care of herself. I need to know what you want. I want to stay with Mom. Even though your father can give you a bigger house, your own room. I don't care about a big house. I just want Mom. What? Emma wiped her eyes. Because when I wake up from bad dreams, Mom is there. When I can't breathe, Mom takes me to the hospital. When I'm sad, Mom hugs me. Dad doesn't do those things. Does your father love you? Emma thought about this. Maybe, but not the way Mom does. What's the difference? Mom loves me even when I'm sick and expensive and annoying. Dad only loves me when I'm easy. The courtroom was silent. Judge Lawson leaned forward. Emma, one more question. If you could tell your father anything right now, what would it be? Emma looked at Brad. I would tell him that I wish he wanted to be my dad because he loves me, not because it looks good. Aid. After Emma stepped down, Judge Lawson called a brief recess. Jennifer Marcus, Maria Patricia Daniel, everyone gathered around me in the hallway. That was incredible, Jennifer said. Jake's testimony was exactly what we needed. I didn't want him to have to do that, I said. I know, but he was brave, and he was honest. Marcus squeezed my shoulder. You've got this. I can feel it. I wanted to believe him, but I'd learned the hard way that wanting something and getting it were two very different things. When court reconvened, Judge Lawson addressed both lawyers. I've heard enough testimony. Unless either counsel has additional witnesses, I'm ready to make my ruling. The petitioner rests your honor, Carter Walsh said. He looked defeated. The respondent rests as well, Jennifer said. Judge Lawson removed her glasses and looked directly at Brad. Mr. Mitchell, I'm going to be very frank with you. I've been a family court judge for 15 years. I've seen hundreds of custody cases, and I've rarely seen a case where one parent has so thoroughly undermined their own position. Brad's jaw tightened. You sent text messages to your 12-year-old son attempting to bribe him into testifying in your favor. You've been absent from your children's lives for months, but suddenly want custody when it becomes financially convenient. You've created situations that directly triggered your daughter's medical emergencies. And most damningly, you've demonstrated through your actions that you view your children as financial liabilities rather than human beings you're responsible for. Your Honor, I'm not finished. Her voice was sharp. In contrast, Ms. Mitchell has done something remarkable. After being left by her spouse with minimal financial support, she taught herself a new skill, secured employment, and built a life for her children. Are her circumstances perfect? No. But she shows up. She fights. She sacrifices. That's what parenting is. She put her glasses back on and read from her notes. This court finds that it would not be in the best interests of the minor children to modify the current custody arrangement. Full legal and physical custody remains with Sarah Mitchell. Mr. Brad Mitchell's visitation rights are modified to every other weekend supervised until such time as he completes a parenting course in family therapy. Your Honor, please, Brad started. I'm not finished. Child support is increased from $1,200 per month to $2,500 per month effective immediately. Mr. Mitchell will also be responsible for 100% of Emma Mitchell's medical expenses, given that her episodes are directly linked to stress caused by his behavior. Furthermore, Mr. Mitchell is ordered to have no direct communication with the minor children except during scheduled visitation. All communication regarding the children must go through Ms. Mitchell. Any attempt to manipulate, bribe, or coerce the children will result in termination of visitation rights entirely. Judge Lawson looked at me. Ms. Mitchell, you've proven that you're a capable mother. Continue being present, continue providing stability, and these children will thrive. She banged her gavel. This court is adjourned. I stood there not quite believing what had just happened. Jennifer grabbed my arm. You won. Sarah, you won. Maria was crying. Patricia was grinning. Marcus was shaking his head in disbelief. And then Jake and Emma ran to me and I dropped to my knees and wrapped my arms around them both. We get to stay with you, Emma asked. Yes, baby, you get to stay with me. Forever, forever. Jake was crying loud, body-shaking sobs that he'd been holding back for months. I was so scared, he gasped. I was so scared we'd lose you." "You didn't lose me. You'll never lose me." We stood there in the middle of the courtroom, the three of us holding on to each other like we were the only solid thing in a spinning world. Behind us, I heard Brad's voice. "Sarah." I turned. He stood a few feet away, looking lost. "Can we talk just for a minute?" I looked at Jennifer. She nodded. I told Jake and Emma to wait with Maria, then followed Brad into the hallway. We stood by a window overlooking downtown Austin. Neither of us spoke for a long moment. "I'm sorry," Brad said finally. "For what specifically?" "For everything. For leaving. For making this ugly. For trying to use the kids." "You didn't try. You did." "I know." He rubbed his face. "I was desperate. Melissa left. I'm buried in debt. I thought if I could just reduce the support payments." "You thought you could win by making me look bad?" "Yes. Did you ever actually want the kids? Or was it always about money?" He was quiet. "That's what I thought," I said. "I do love them," he said quietly. "I know you don't believe that, but I do." "Then why did you leave?" "Because I was bored. Because I wanted to feel young again. Because Melissa made me feel like I was still important. And now I'm 40 years old, alone and in debt. And I've lost my children because I was too stupid to realize what I had." I should have felt satisfaction, vindication, but all I felt was tired. "Brad, I don't hate you." He looked surprised. "I did for a while, but I don't anymore. You gave me Jake and Emma, and even though you hurt me, even though you made my life hell, they were worth it. They deserved better than me. They deserved a father who showed up, but that's on you to fix, not me. Can I see them?" "Not today, but eventually that's up to the court and up to them. If they want a relationship with you, I won't stand in the way, but you'll have to earn it, and you'll have to prove that you actually care." "I understand." We stood there for another moment, two people who'd once promised to love each other forever, now strangers. "Goodbye, Brad," I said. "Goodbye, Sarah." I walked away and didn't look back. Outside the courthouse, the August sun was brutal. Daniel was waiting by the parking lot. He'd slipped out during the recess and hadn't come back in. "Hey," I said. "Hey," he smiled. "How'd it go?" "I won." "I knew you would." "Did you?" "Yeah, because you're stubborn as hell and you don't give up." I laughed, the first real laugh I'd had in weeks. "Thank you," I said, "for testifying, for being there." "I didn't do anything." "You did everything." We stood there, the kids playing on the courthouse lawn behind us, the city humming around us. "So what now?" Daniel asked. "Now I figure out how to actually live instead of just survive." "Need any help with that?" "Maybe, but no rush. I'm still figuring out what that looks like." "Fair enough." He squeezed my hand. "But whenever you're ready, I'm here." "I know." 6 months later, February in Austin was unpredictable. Some days felt like spring, others like winter was clinging on for dear life. Today was a good day. 68 degrees and sunny. I stood in my new apartment, a 3-bedroom in North Austin, nothing fancy but with actual bedrooms for Jake and Emma, and looked around. There were still unpacked boxes. The furniture was mostly secondhand, but it was ours. My diploma from UT Austin hung on the wall. I'd finished those last 12 credits online taking classes at night after the kids went to bed. Dr. Patel had attended my graduation ceremony, and she'd cried when I walked across the stage. I was still working at TechVerse. Marcus had been true to his word, the promotion was real, the salary was real, and I was damn good at my job. Jake's grades had improved. He was back on the soccer team. He still had nightmares sometimes, but he was learning to talk about them instead of holding them in. Emma hadn't had an asthma attack in 4 months. Dr. Patel had reduced her medication cautiously, optimistic that as Emma's anxiety decreased, her symptoms would continue to improve. And Brad had moved to Dallas for a fresh start. He paid child support on time. He didn't have a choice, the court had set up automatic withdrawal. He sent birthday cards and Christmas presents. He called once a month, awkward and stilted conversations where Jake and Emma answered in monosyllables. Maybe someday they'd have a real relationship. Maybe not. But that was his responsibility now, not mine. There was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Daniel and Lily on the doorstep carrying grocery bags. "We brought lunch," Lily announced. "And terrible movies," Daniel added. "Emma requested Disney." Of course she did. Jake and Emma came running, and soon the apartment was full of noise laughter, arguing over which movie to watch. First the smell of sandwiches and chips. Daniel and I stood in the kitchen while the kids set up the living room. "You look happy," he said. "I am. Is that weird?" Why would it be weird? Because 6 months ago I was broke and terrified and barely holding it together. Now I have a decent job and an apartment and my kids are safe. It feels too good. Maybe you've just been through hell for so long that happiness feels suspicious. Maybe. Or maybe you earned it. I thought about that. About the late nights learning to code. About the hospital bills I'd slowly paid off. About the court battle I'd won through sheer stubborn refusal to give up. Maybe he was right. Maybe I had earned this. "Hey," Daniel said. "I wanted to ask you something." "Okay." "Lily's birthday is next month. We're having a small party at the park. Would you and the kids want to come?" "Of course. And after maybe you and I could grab dinner, just the two of us." I looked at him, this kind, patient man who'd been there through everything without demanding anything in return. "Like a date?" I asked. "Yeah, like a date." I thought about all the reasons I could say no. I was still healing. I was focused on my kids. I wasn't ready. But maybe the point wasn't being ready. Maybe the point was being willing to try. "Yes," I said. "I'd like that." He smiled. Yeah. Later that night, after Daniel and Lily had left, I tucked Emma into bed. "Mama, yay, yes, baby." "Are you happy?" "Very happy." "Why?" "Because you haven't cried in a long time." My heart squeezed. "Do you remember when I used to cry a lot?" "Yeah, when we first moved here. I heard you sometimes at night." "I'm sorry you had to hear that." "It's okay. I'm glad you don't cry anymore." "Me too." "Mama?" "Yes." "I wrote something in my diary today. Want to hear it?" "Always." She pulled out her unicorn diary, the same one I'd found months ago. "Dear Diary," she read. "Today Mom smiled at breakfast. Like a real smile. Not the fake smile she does when she's worried. And I realized something. We're going to be okay. Not perfect, but okay. And maybe that's better." She looked up at me. "Do you think that's true? That okay is better than perfect?" I kissed her forehead. "Yes, sweetheart. I think okay is exactly where we're supposed to be." After Emma fell asleep, I went to check on Jake. He was at his desk doing homework. Actual homework. Without me having to nag him. "Hey, buddy." "Hey, Mom. You doing okay?" "Yeah, just finishing this essay for English." "What's it about heroes? We had to write about someone we admire." "Who did you pick?" He hesitated. "You." "Me?" "Yeah. Is that weird?" "No, not weird at all. Can I read it?" He handed me the pages. I sat on his bed and read. My hero is my mom. Not because she's perfect, but because she never gave up. A year ago, everything fell apart. We lost our house, we lost money, my dad left, and I thought we were going to lose Mom too, but we didn't. Mom taught herself to code at midnight after we went to sleep. She worked 2 jobs. She fought in court for us. She made dinner every night, even when she was tired. She helped with homework, even when she didn't understand it herself. People think heroes are people who do big things. But I think heroes are people who do small things every single day, even when it's hard. My mom is my hero because she showed me that starting over doesn't mean you failed. It means you're brave enough to try again. I couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down my face, but they were good tears. "It's stupid, right?" Jake said nervously. "No, it's perfect." "You're not mad." "Why would I be mad? Because I wrote about all the hard stuff." "Jake, the hard stuff is part of our story, and I'm not ashamed of it anymore." I looked at him. "Are you?" "No, not really." "Good. Because we survived, and that's something to be proud of." He nodded. And then for the first time in months, he hugged me voluntarily, not because I initiated it, but because he wanted to. "Love you, Mom." "Love you too, buddy." "Oh." After the kids were asleep, I sat on my small balcony with a cup of tea and looked out over North Austin. The city sparkled in the distance. Cars hummed on the highway. Someone was playing music a few apartments over. It wasn't quiet. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer Nguyen. Just checking in. How are you doing? I smiled and typed back. I'm doing good. Really good. Proud of you. You earned this. Thank you for everything. Anytime. That's what lawyers are for. Well, that and billing you obscene amounts of money. I laughed and set the phone down. Then I pulled out a notebook, a new one leather-bound that I'd bought to replace the scattered scraps of paper where I used to write my to-do lists. On the first page I wrote, Things I've learned. 1. Starting over isn't failure, it's courage. 2. Being enough doesn't mean being perfect. 3. Love isn't about what you can buy, it's about what you're willing to sacrifice. 4. Sometimes the people who save you aren't the ones you expect. 5. You're stronger than you think, especially on the days when you don't feel strong at all. I closed the notebook and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the woman I'd been a year ago, the one who'd sat in a hospital waiting room at 3 a.m., terrified and alone, was watching me. And I hoped she knew. You made it. We made it. Not to perfection, not to happily ever after, but to okay. And okay was pretty damn good. Thank you for listening to my story. If you're going through something similar, if you're fighting for your kids, rebuilding after loss, or starting over when you thought it was too late, I want you to know you can do this. It won't be easy, but you're stronger than you think. Keep going, keep fighting, keep showing up. And remember, starting over at 37 or 47 or 57, it's never too late to become the person you were meant to be.